First off, I want to make a disclaimer. This isn't really the type of story to make you jump out of your seat, but this was definitely one story that really kind of put me on edge for about 2 months. I think I should start this off. Well, to be fair, I was a kid in the 90s, as I really liked this series called Kidsongs. Kidsongs is basically like this little television series where children are singing songs, children-friendly ones. Although there are adult characters that are in these, but they personally were pretty much the parents, hosts of, stuff like, for example, the circus and theme park. You get the idea. Now, this television series sing-along videos were made started off sometime in 1985, with the first one being A Day at Old MacDonald's Farm. Eventually, since the mid-80s, they had started getting popular, and they were even booming in the 90s. I used to have a couple of these VHS tapes back when I was a kid. I used to watch them every day before going to school, and even when I didn't have school. However, I remember it was sometime back last year, or maybe it was the year before. I wanted to rewatch all the Kidsongs tapes again, but the ones that I had since I was a kid either stopped working and don't work anymore, or my mom got rid of them. I honestly was mad because I wanted to rewatch them again and enjoy all the memories and fun times I had with the tapes growing up. I, however, decided that I should look to see if I could find them again. However, I happened to come across it, at least from a selling on Kijiji. I was on Kijiji looking for some stuff. For those of you who were in Canada, Kijiji is like a Craigslist, Canadian version of it, if you can understand what I mean. I was trying to see if I could find some old VHS tapes of some old movies, such as Disney films. However, I eventually came across an ad that said all the series of VHS tapes of Kidsongs. It was the whole complete set, so I messaged the user, and I did tell him that I was interested in the VHS tapes of the Kidsongs tapes. He said they are all Viewmaster VHS, with a few of them being one from Kidvision and a few from Sony Wonder. Now, I did used to collect VHS tapes back in the day, and I still do to this day. I contacted the seller, and he said that I could meet him somewhere and he could give it to me for about $30. I know it was pretty high for VHS tapes, but this had the entire series, so that's probably why it was a couple times more the price. I ended up meeting him what appeared to be at a local park, as I didn't live too far from the park, so I walked down there. I waited there, and the guy arrived, and I handed him the money, and he gave me the VHS tapes. He then told me that about a bit of backstory about them. He said that his daughter used to love watching them when she was a kid growing up, and I told him I used to watch them too when my parents used to buy for me. Since I live alone in my house, of course, that this is because my husband's on a business trip, I ended up deciding that maybe I should look more into buying the DVD set of Kidsongs. I know DVDs is what we have nowadays, so I thought that maybe I can get them in the future. But it'd be nice to watch them on VHS again, since I haven't watched it in a long time. I ended up paying the guy, thanked him, and then I took the box of VHS tapes that had the Kidsongs tapes in. However, I took them in. He then stopped me and said, "Oh, I almost forgot. I do have this one rare VHS tape. My daughter's not seen it, but I could definitely say it probably might be just some recorded episodes from the previous Kidsongs videos." He handed me the rare tape, which is kind of odd. I was going to decline him, saying that, it was alright and he could just take it, but he insisted that I do. So as soon as I took it, I ended up deciding to go back to my house. I got out my VCR, hooked it up, and I decided to watch all the episodes. I watched all the episodes of Kidsongs from Old MacDonald Had a Farm to I think sometime in the ones where they ended sometime in the early 2000s or something like that. So as soon as after I went through all the VHS tapes, watched them all, I was feeling a lot of nostalgic. I remember watching them back as a kid. I remembered I think they were on TV at one point. So I guess you could definitely say, hey, that it was definitely an experience that I will never forget. Now, on to this weird tape. I ended up deciding to check out the weird tape last that the guy handed me, mainly because I wasn't sure why he handed it to me to even begin with. So, I ended up looking at the tape, but the weird thing is that there was no label. I expected this to be the case since this must have been one of those VHS tapes that you used to record stuff. I ended up putting the tape in after rewinding because whoever must have recorded must have left in midway and probably didn't have time to finish it. So I ended up doing what I would always do is rewind the tape. After waiting for a little bit, I ended up getting some chores done around the house. I got some dishes done and I got a load of laundry in the washer, and then I decided to go and check if the VHS tape was done. It was finished rewinding, so I ended up taking the tape and put it in my VCR and sat down on my couch to watch this tape. Since this was one of those recording tapes, I expected maybe a repeat of any of the Kidsongs tapes. However, though, that wasn't really the case when it popped up. It popped up was the usual Warner Bros. Record Studios, which honestly, it's the original opening for Kidsongs. But I mean, if this was the case, when was this even made? I even did research just to be sure, but there were no other Kidsongs VHS tapes since I think the late 90s, early 2000s, but I couldn't really be for sure or exactly. After the opening came up, it was all normal. However, this the next VHS tape I looked at, as soon as I looked at the other ones, I thought that maybe it might have been maybe just repeats of the other songs. However, that wasn't the case. I know I said it before, but I wasn't sure if that was the case or if it was completely different. The Kidsongs logo came up and the opening was the same, so nothing was untouched. However, there was this one song that appeared. I can't remember exactly what song it was, but it sounded like it was a song from called "All Did You Ever See a Lassie?" I know that was on a VHS tape called "I'm Teaching the World to Sing," but apparently it seemed to be a little different. It seemed to be in French, so I couldn't really understand it too well. But however, it seemed to go normal for the beginning. There was a total of about maybe 8 kids, and they were in Paris doing something. I couldn't remember exactly. But then they appeared as they were singing, they took a plane. Honestly, they were back in the US, but however, though, this was starting to get really strange. And I honestly was going to question if this was some prank or maybe it was just my mind messing with me. I didn't really know entirely, but I just decided to sit there and watch and see what happens, just in case if anything were to get really unsettled. Of course, it then takes place what appeared to be at least a man and a woman. Of course, they looked like they were in their 30s, so I thought maybe they were going to teach the kids to sing. The woman, who I presumed to be Emily, that's what her name I believe it was, said, and I quote, "Kids, do you want to hear a song?" Of course, the kids say yeah, as always, so far it doesn't seem to be very bad. However, the song was called Lavender's Blue, and as it was singing, I ended up seeing that there was some weird static coming on TV. It wasn't really completely static that I couldn't see, but it looked like the VHS tape was old, and the static came on screen for just a minute, not completely distorting the whole thing, but kind of really weird in the sense to make it look like the tape was dirty. So, however, after Lavender's Blue, the next song came up, which appeared to be another song. I don't even remember if this was on Kidsongs, but I do remember this song though. It was a song about it. It was a weird song, but it kind of sounded like it came from a Disney movie, and I honestly didn't even know why. It was called A Whole New World, and I honestly thought that maybe they sang that from the Aladdin movie. But if they were to sing any Disney songs, they would have had to get the rights from Disney, or at least permission from Disney, to make them into those songs. It almost looked like a realistic Aladdin and Jasmine, despite it that it might have been made in the 90s. But I wasn't really too sure, as this was the tape that I don't think Kidsongs ever released. The songs seemed to be going normal, but however though, there was in the scene where Aladdin and Jasmine were in the magic carpet ride, the magic carpet just kept looking like it was shriveling up. I mean, there was a piece of string that was hanging loose, and the carpet started to shrivel up. Not really shrivel up, but it was kind of starting to unravel, which honestly kind of made me worried that whoever the kids were singing on the magic carpet was going to fall. But when the carpet disappeared, they didn't appear to fall or anything. It was like they were floating on air. I didn't even understand why that was the case, but it seemed to be really freaky, and I honestly didn't know what I should do or not. But I thought that maybe this was just a coincidence that was a green screen, but there's no way to know entirely for sure if that was the case or if it was something else. The next song that came up was definitely different. This song was actually a different song that I might have heard from the 90s, but I just can't remember. It was a song that the Wiggles sang called Let's Do the Twist. Honestly, that went very well, but I didn't understand why the Wiggles were even brought into it, since it wasn't made by an Australian company or band, but it was also American, so that wouldn't really make any sense. Unless it was guest starring the Wiggles, but I wasn't too sure. The next tape then goes on with a few more songs. I'm not going to go too much into detail on a few of these songs, because most of them seemed that it had gone through normal without any issues. The next song was a song about Barney the dinosaur, which honestly, I could see that understandably be believable, since Barney was around in the 90s. Another song I do realize that I kind of wish that they didn't put there, it was the Flintstones theme song. It wasn't bad, but I definitely really enjoyed the BC-52's version of it. Now, another theme song that came up was a Berenstain Bears one. It was the one from the 80s. Now, this kind of made me confused as why it was using songs from Disney to, TV shows, etc. It honestly didn't make any sense. So I thought that maybe there might have been some connection between the Kidsongs and the other shows and companies. Maybe, but I don't really entirely know. And plus, I wouldn't really know because I never worked with Kidsongs. Honestly, the tape started to get really distorted a little bit. But however, I looked over and I could see that there was a bunch of kids, and there was this man who looked like he was mentally insane. I don't even know why, but he had really crazy looks on his eyes. I didn't even recognize if it was an actor or not, but he looked really crazed. He looked as if he was going to explode in anger at any moment. He then started singing and songs with the kids. I think it was called Old MacDonald Had a Farm. But however though, he started laughing manically while laughing, and the kids honestly were confused midway. Eventually, they couldn't finish the song, and the mentally insane man started laughing on the ground, and he rolled on the ground, and honestly, the ground looked like it was an salt, but it was burning his skin. The kids started screaming, but of course, they ended up going to tell somebody about it, and even one of the kids called 911. Honestly, I know it didn't really make any sense, but Eventually, the man was taken to a hospital, but it turns out that he was mentally insane. Of course, it wasn't really revealed, but the ending of it just had the kids going home for the day, saying that they were traumatized as to what happened. Some of them were even telling their parents of what they did today and stuff. But other than that, they haven't really said much to their parents about what really went downhill. Now, as of this, I honestly was stunned, but honestly was speechless. I ended up taking the tape, but I ended up deciding maybe I should contact the people who made Kidsongs, just to see if there were any reason that maybe they were behind it, or maybe they were aware of this. I had come to the conclusion that it might have been maybe just some theory, but at the same time, maybe this must have been fan made, but there was no really to know for sure. So I ended up going online to see if I can contact any of them by email, the companies that made Kidsongs. I ended up scrolling through, and I was talking to what appeared to be Together Again Productions, also known as TAP, but which unfortunately defunct back in 1998. Now, of course, since that was out of the question, I ended up seeing if I could find the writer and director. Bruce Gowers was apparently still there at the time, and since this was last year before he died, I ended up messaging him, emailing him, and explained to him about my mysterious encounter with this, TV show called Kidsongs. Now, he did say to me on his email that they never made anything like this, but at the same time, it's most likely somebody made that as a prank, but he could assure me that it wasn't anybody that were in the company to make something like that. Especially after what I said and mentioned, it honestly makes me wonder if this was just a prank. It might have been some coincidence, but how would I really know for sure? I still watch Kidsongs VHS tapes every now and then, and sometimes I still watch, you can definitely guess, I still watch some other for tapes. So you could definitely say I still enjoy the tapes, but at the same time, I kind of really get unnerved every time I think about this incident. It's not really the one to jump out of your pants, but it's definitely one that kind of put me on edge for a while, thinking maybe there was just a fan-made episode. I even contacted, Disney and maybe some other companies that aired certain TV shows that this Kidsongs weird tape had, but they said they never had anything like that from them. And in fact, neither of the director or the company had reached out to them regarding that. I still am not sure about this mysterious tape encounter to this day, but I'm just gonna say, just stick with the original Kidsongs tape. And if there's a strange tape someone's selling on Kijiji or whatever, just don't accept it. The tape that I still have, I don't know if I'm gonna sell it or not. I probably won't, just for the sake of not wanting to traumatize anybody, but I'm just going to keep it in case if there's any more valid evidence or proof on who or what was behind all of this on this tape.